What is this? I tell you what it is, it's unacceptable. If you guys have a sunken light switch like this or receptacle, you want to know how to fix it, stay with me in this video. I'm going to show you guys 5 easy ways to get it done, and you guys can do this by yourself in less than 5 minutes. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome, and to all my longtime subscribers, welcome back. Guys, I have a sunken light switch here, and if you guys have this problem, you know how much of a pain in the ass it is, and it can take you a while to figure it out. I have 5 methods that I use that you can definitely follow along and use if you ever have this situation happen to you. The cool thing is, if you use these, you can definitely fix this problem in less than 5 minutes, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I know there may be more than 5 ways to fix this thing, but I have 5 methods that I use, and I figured I'd talk to you guys about the ones that I use most often, and you guys can decide for yourself which ones work better for you in whatever scenario. I want you guys to stay with me in this video all the way through, because at some point in the video I'm going to share with you guys a tip that I like to use whenever I'm working on electrical receptacles or light switches, and this is going to change the way you do electrical around the house. I know for me, it's made a big difference, and anytime I've talked to other DIYers or electricians and tell them this that I do, they always smile and say, that's pretty ingenious, so keep it up. All right, so stay tuned and I'll give you that little bit of information here throughout the video. So before you work on any light switch or any receptacle, you're going to want to find the breaker and turn it off. That just gives you peace of mind that you won't electrocute or shock yourself while you're working. If you're comfortable working with the power on, you can for some of these items. But with that said, you guys know safety first. Go ahead, shut that breaker off. Next thing we're going to do is take off the cover plate so we can see what the actual problem is. And as you can see from the light switch here, we have 2 problems that are going on here. The first problem is that the drywall was cut too large so that the ears on the light switch don't have anything to grip onto whenever you're tightening those screws. That's problem 1. The second problem is the box, whoever installed this, installed it lean. I believe this is a block wall, so maybe when they put it in, they didn't put it in level. So the top portion is pushed further back than the bottom portion of the box. With that said, let's talk about the items and let's jump into the first fix. Now, here I have this little C-shaped bracket, and you can use this whenever there's a small gap around your outlet or your light switch. As long as there's enough drywall for this to sit on the outside, then it should provide enough stability for your light switch. The cool thing about this is you don't have to take the outlet or the light switch completely off. All you want to do is loosen the screws enough so that this can slide behind the ears on your receptacle. And all you really need to do is position it over the first screw, and then you're going to swing it in like a cantilever manner under the second screw. Position it so that it sits on the drywall flush, and then just tighten down the screws until the light switch sits flush against the plate. And now you can go ahead, put the cover plate on, tighten down your screws, and you should have a flush, nice, clean install. Problem solved. So that takes care of the first method. The next thing I want to talk to you about are these little spacers. You've probably seen them and used them maybe, but these things are pretty cool. They work by fitting over the screws, and you can adjust them by folding them on top of each other, and then they'll snap together like this. Now all you need to do is slide this in your box and measure the gap that you have between your box and the edge of your drywall. And you can fold it as many times as you need, and whatever excess is left, you can go ahead and cut it off. Now all you need to do is slide this over your screw, and then we can go ahead and tighten down the light switch until the ears butt up against this, giving you a flush install. Once you're done with one side, you can repeat it on the other side if you have a gap on the top and the bottom. Like in our case, once you've measured just like you did in the top, you can go ahead, tighten down your bottom screw, and then tighten down the light switch until you get a flush install. Once again, you can put the cover plate back on and you have a clean finish again. So that's 2 methods down and 2 easy fixes. I'm going to talk to you guys about which one of them I actually prefer and the pros and cons of each, but that's for later on in the video, so stay tuned. We're going to jump into the third thing. The third method that I want to talk about are using these little spacers here. These things are pretty cool and I really like these. What they are is just a tubular spacer, and in order to get this to work, they slide over the screw just like the last spacer. However, they're adjustable to any size. This gives you the flexibility of not being limited by the folds in those spacers in the last one. The way this works, you just slide it into your box, and just measure from the box to the edge of the drywall. And what you want to do is get yourself a pair of cutters, pliers, whatever it is, utility knives, and just cut it to size. In my case, I'm going to cut it for the top and the bottom. And once you've done that, you're good to go. You can just slide these over the screws, line up your screws with your box, tighten down the screws, and once you've got them nice and snug, you'll have a nice flush fit with the front of your drywall. And again, just repeat the steps, putting on your cover plate, and the installation is complete. This one is pretty cool, pretty quick, and solves the problem again. Which leads me into my last two items that I want to talk to you guys about. And these are box spacers. I'm going to talk to you guys about these individually, but these kind of serve the same purposes. Whereas if you need a space in your box, especially if you've installed like a countertop or something and your outlet or your light switch is completely recessed, you can use these spacers to bring the box out. And I'll talk to you guys about how we can use them in this application and why one may work and why the other may not. So let's talk about the next step, which is this box spacer here. And this works just like you would imagine. It's all a spacer. You would slide this in over your light switch and into your box so it butts up against the box. Now, as you can see, in my case, the drywall wasn't cut big enough for this to work. So in my application, this one doesn't work. Now, you may have an application where you may want to use this, especially if you have a box that's already mounted perfectly and straight, and you have a countertop where the hole is cut exactly for your box. This will slide in nice and snug and give you that little extension. This one is 1/2 inch. They actually make them in different thicknesses, so if you need a 3/4 or a 1/4 or 1 inch, you can pick one of these things up and it will be used to space your box and bring it flush to the surface that you need to mount. For my purposes, this one won't work, but it may work for you, so I thought I would let you guys know and show you guys another option. Last up on the list is another spacer here, and this one works similar to the one that I just talked about. And to install this, all you really need to do is you're going to slide it over your light switch or your outlet, whatever you have, and you don't have to disconnect the wires. All you need to do is just tilt the outlet or the light switch in a manner that you can feed the airs through one side and then tilt it and get it over the light switch. Once you have all your wires and your switch installed in this, all you need to do is position this into your existing box until the airs here are flush with the drywall, as you see in my case. And then all you need to do next is tighten down those screws. The screws on your light switch go through the tabs on the light switch itself, and then they pass through this box. That way it's going to sandwich between the box and the wall. And with that, you have a nice fit. Just tighten down the screws until the light switch and the spacer box are flush, and you've completed the installation. All you need to do now is install the cover plate, line up your screws so they're all facing up. I know we have this debate whether horizontal or vertical screws, but whichever one is your preference, just line them up and your installation is complete. Once you're done, all you need to do now is turn on your breaker, or if you had the power out, and your light switch is back to working. Which brings me to my little tip that I teased you guys about in the beginning. Remember when I told you I have a method that I'm using now and it's changed my life? What I want you to do is, once you've turned the breaker off and you're back at the outlet or the light switch that you're working on, take the cover plate and use a Sharpie or a pen or something and write down the breaker number on the back side of the cover plate. This is pretty cool because if you ever come back to work on that outlet years from now or light switch years from now, all you need to do is just look on the back plate and you'll find your breaker. You can run to your breaker and turn it off. I know it sounds silly, but it's a pretty cool tip, especially if you do a lot of electrical DIY. You'll be surprised at how often you'll go back to the same receptacle or light switch to work on it to do something else. So just a little tip I thought I'd share with you guys, and hopefully this helps. So now that we're done with the installation and our light switch is awesome and flush, here's what I want to talk about, the pros and cons of each. So first off, let's talk about the pros and cons of this little C bracket here. This one works really well, especially if the outlet isn't sunken too far and you have enough drywall for this to grip around. If there's not enough drywall, then you'll have this thing won't be able to sit flush and it won't be useful. But in a pinch, especially if you need something quick, this one is going to work the quickest since you don't have to remove the screws. The next one is the spacer here that you have to fold on top of each other. Now this one works good as well, especially since you can just throw this in your bag or in your pocket. They don't take up that much space, they're not heavy, and they slide over the screws. The only limitation to this is that the folds are a set size, so you may not get it exact, or you may have to tighten down your screws too hard or not enough, just because you may be a 1/16 of an inch off. But again, I don't need to be picky. The last con is once you fold these things, they sit over your screw. Now, sometimes, if you saw when I was installing mine, if you're lucky, the folds will stay, but sometimes they tend to pop out like this and you have to readjust them. And since they're only sitting on the screw, sometimes they twist around the screw and you have to kind of mess with them a little bit to get them to stay where they are. Again, not too bad. They work pretty well, and I can say I've used these a bunch of times. Next up is the tubular spacer that I have here, and just let me preface this. This is my favorite one. Why? Because it fits over the screw and you can cut it to exactly what size you need. That for me tells me that no matter what the spacing is, I can always use this. I mean, as long as it's not a gap more than that. So for my number one pick, this will be the one that I would recommend to everybody to keep. Next up are the box spacers, and like I said, the pros about this one is that they're uniform in size and they come in the specific size that you need. So this one will work well, especially if you have a recessed outlet from a countertop or a backsplash or something like that. These work really well. The only drawback is the hole has to be big enough for this to fit in. Last but not least is our box spacer here, and this one pretty much the same pros and cons as the last one, except for the fact that we have more tabs on here, which gives it a little bit more reach. And since the box is tapered, it allows it to fit in more tight spaces, whereas the previous one, it has to be the exact size or the box wouldn't be able to fit. With that said, that's it, guys. Those are the 5 options that I have for you today. And using one of these 5 should be more than enough for you guys to figure out which scenario you have and which one will work best for you. Once again, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget, give me a like and leave a comment below about spacers that you use and tips and tricks that you may use to fix sunken outlets. I'm always eager to learn and hear what you guys are using and doing out there. So definitely leave a comment because I will be checking it and I will be responding. All right, with that said, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.